Food crops, grown on large agricultural tracts like this, are most often destined for grocery aisles or even alcoholic beverages. But increasingly, food crops are being used to make alternative fuels for motor vehicles known as biofuels. First-generation biofuels include sources like maize, sugarcane, sorghum, soya beans, and sunflower oil. Maize is excluded in South Africa due to food security concerns. But the food versus fuel debate has spurred research into second-generation or advanced biofuels that don't compete with inputs destined for food consumption, namely algae, kelp, wood chips, and fruit peels. The Department of Energy says the biofuels industry took an important step forward this year.
We have come up with regulations which are for the mandatory blending of biofuels into petrol and diesel. These were promulgated on Friday, the 24th of August. We are going to put them into effect once we have sorted other things, particularly the pricing mechanism. But we are very clear in terms of what our intentions are, and we have made our intentions clear to the public and the potential investors.
Biofuels aren't new to the country. Bioethanol from sugarcane was used in petrol from the 1920s until the 1960s, when this was put on hold due to low international oil prices. While the industry is looking to make a revival, petroleum companies are skeptical.
I don't think there's enough biofuels at a scale at which you can even think about like forcing people to blend, because I don't think it does exist at the scale that they are anticipating. So we're talking about millions and millions of biofuels here, and if we don't even have a proof of who can even deliver like 1 million liters, I think right now we're just talking about theory. We need to put this into practice.
Ambitions were formalized in the 2005 draft biofuel strategy drawn up by the Biofuels Task Team. The revised 2007 Biofuels Industrial Strategy White Paper proposed a 2% penetration level of biofuels in the national liquid fuel supply, or 400 million litres per annum. The 2% scenario is expected to boost jobs, economic growth, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. While the global biofuels industry has grown significantly, it's still small in relation to total fuel supply. The United States and Brazil dominate the market, accounting for 70% of total biofuel supply, while Africa is a serious laggard. For South Africa, the next step is incentivizing investment, taking into account the cost of production and the price oil companies will pay for biofuels.
We had to look at the break-even price for the biofuel manufacturer, producer, looking at it really right from the field where you produce the crop to where you have the biofuel. And then to say to the producer of the biofuel, if you've got this biofuel where your break-even, where your cost of production is this much, and then you have the price at which this the oil company or the oil industry is prepared to buy being lower than that, right? It means you'll have to sell at a loss. So if you need to sell at a loss, that is where the issues of subsidy comes in.
And that is where National Treasury comes in. Although the subsidization of biofuels is common globally, local ethanol producers worry government doesn't have deep enough pockets to prioritize this new industry.
That is a fundamental concern that we have is the funding available? Department of Energy have set up the regulations, but now the issue is the funding available? And that has to come from Treasury.
Petroleum companies are going to have to change their infrastructure to incorporate biofuels. Now, the South African Petroleum Industry Association represents the likes of Sasol, Chevron, Total, and of course Engen here. And according to Sapir, these oil companies don't want to have to foot the bill.
The biofuels must be introduced in a way that it will be cost neutral to the industry. So it doesn't have to cost us anything more. If we have to pay anything more, there must be a cost recovery mechanism to allow us to recoup the cost. We are compliant to government requirements. They are making it mandatory. And our core function really is to produce fossil fuels. That's what we're doing right now. So if we were to venture into biofuels, we'll do it out of our own accord, and we'll look at the economics and see if there's justification to do that.
Potential investors are plenty. CNBC Africa spoke to some who refused interviews due to the sensitivity of the issue. The Industrial Development Corporation has set aside 5.1 billion rand for biofuels investment, and government plans to build a 2 billion rand bioethanol plant. But despite the hype, construction has yet to commence.
As soon as those two items are published, the regulated price and the mechanism of transfer of the incentive, I think investment would commence immediately.
We need to take a step further to then have the price that the government wants to regulate. It has to be communicated. Once we know that and cover all the issues relating to blending cost by the oil companies, that will then give us a platform at which we can test if this is a reality or it's just a dream.
Biofuels are hoped to create jobs for the previously disadvantaged on rural, underutilized land and act as a bridge between the first and second economy. But right now, with nothing more than a white paper, bold ambitions and potential investors, a commercially viable South African biofuels industry still looks like a pipe dream. Samantha Loring, CNBC Africa, Johannesburg.